Oh wow, an educational video. That's going to be something different.
Water, when unmanipulated, is to find its level. So whether you look at a cup of water, a bathtub, a swimming pool, a lake, or the ocean, it's flat. Of course, natural motion is not considered and doesn't equal a curve.
Ah, oh, fuck me. Level and flat in this concept are two totally different things. When you talk of something being flat, we're talking like, say, a piece of board where you've planed it and thickened it and then you've sanded it down and got it nice and smooth and flat. But level is when you take that same board, you attach it to the wall, put a spirit level on top of it and make sure that the shelf is level. Flat and smooth are one thing. Level is another thing. Level is related to the pull of gravity. When we say something is level, it means that it is perpendicular to the pull of gravity. Now, because for the Earth, we've a massive ball where the gravity is right in the middle of said ball, that's where the pull of gravity is going to, anything that's on the surface of the Earth, that pull moves with the surface. So if you've got water on the top, the water will curve to the ball because that pull of gravity, and it will still, in any one spot, be perpendicular to the pull of gravity. So when we're talking about something being level, it's just about it being perpendicular to the pull of gravity.
We have 0 authentic pictures of the Earth and they're all composites, and NASA even admits that they Photoshop Earth images.
It is Photoshopped, but it's has to be.
It's odd that you should even claim this, because we have pictures of the Earth in full taken from various space missions and satellites. In 1968, the Apollo 8 mission took a photograph of Earthrise from the moon. The photographer was Galen Rowell, and it is an absolutely beautiful picture which I'm going to show now. And then on December the 7th, 1972, from a distance of 29,000 kilometers from Earth, the crew of Apollo 17 took this picture on its way to the moon, which is one of the most reproduced pictures of the Earth ever. It's called the Blue Marble. These two pictures have not been photoshopped. They are full, straight out pictures of the Earth. But even more importantly, the Himawari 8 satellite takes one picture of the Earth every 10 minutes and sends it back to the surface for people to look at. And with this satellite, we've been able to track bushfires in Australia and even meteorites that entered the Earth's atmosphere to see where they were. Now, the fact that we can do this live and real time with Himawari 8 shows that we are getting real live pictures from space. Now, just because a few of the pictures are photoshopped, and they have to be, because if you're taking photos from the ISS, you're actually a little bit too close to the Earth to get all of the Earth in one shot. So multiple shots are taken, the best parts of them are then put together as a composite image. They're still real photos, they're just combined back in to give us a full picture of the Earth. And yes, different photos are going to look slightly different because different cameras, different times, different lighting. As you would know if you've ever taken any photos for yourself.
On numerous occasions, NASA admits that we can't go beyond low Earth orbit, which is between 99 miles and 1,200 miles away. The interesting thing is that the moon is said to be 238,000 miles away, which is a difference of 236,800 miles.
What NASA actually admits to here is that they currently don't have the spacecraft that can take people beyond Earth orbit. We stopped producing the Saturn V rockets in the 70s. the NASA moved on to producing the space shuttle, which was only designed for low Earth orbit. It was designed to get satellites into space. It was mostly designed to help build the International Space Station. That was its purpose. And now what we have is companies like Boeing and SpaceX building on the technology of the past to give us ships like the Falcon, which can take people to low Earth orbit and eventually beyond. So we are looking to have that lift capability again to get further into space, and that's why we have planned moon missions coming up again. What you have to remember is a lot of risks were taken in the 60s and 70s with going into space. Risks that would be unacceptable now. Safer, cheaper, better is the mantra of space travel nowadays. People don't want to lose astronauts. Taking risks, extra risks, I mean going to space is risky anyway, but taking extra risks is not acceptable. So it's not like we lost the ability to go to space. We just invested in other technologies with the aim to come up with better systems that would get us into space safer, better, and cheaper. Reusable spacecraft was a pinnacle of this. The shuttle started it. And SpaceX is continuing it, along with Boeing and various other companies that are producing the next generation of ships that will be cheaper, reusable, better, and safer. It's pretty simple when you look into it.
No matter if you're on the ground, on top of a building, a mountain, a hot air balloon, an airplane, or looking at high-altitude amateur balloon footage, the horizon never fails to rise right to your eyes.
See, here you have another misconception. Because as you go up in height, unless of course you go up exceptionally high in height, the difference that you would have to tilt your head to only imagine that the horizon stays at the same level, I'll use your words, is only a couple of degrees. Now a couple of degrees movement of your neck is less than that. It's nothing. You are not going to notice that, but your brain likes to see the horizon at a particular location. It feels comfortable with that because it's what you normally see when you're on the ground. So you will adjust your head to put the horizon where you feel comfortable. Now, there has been tests done by Woofy and a few others using drones that have shown that as you go up in height, if you've got proper gyroscopes to stabilize and everything, you can actually see that the horizon changes. And it's the same with these high altitude balloons. You're taking a photograph of space and then you're assuming within that scope of that photo where the horizon has to be. So your brain just adjusts for it. You either think that the camera is tilted down or up and you try to adjust to put the horizon where you feel it should be. Because you've got no external reference to judge that from. So this is just a complete misconception and you allowing your brain to confuse you.
Whether you are looking at Toronto's skyline from Niagara-on-the-Lake, 31 miles away, Chicago's skyline from Union Pier, 43 miles away, or even Oahu from Kauai, which is up to 108 miles away from center to center, or 73 miles away from the closest points, you will not see any curvature where it's supposed to be. According to the Pythagorean theorem, which states that the curvature of the Earth is 8 inches per mile squared, Oahu should not be visible whatsoever, but you can see the whole thing.
I was really hoping I would get through this video being nice and not having to call you a fucking idiot. But Pythagoras' theorem, really? We're talking about curves, curvature and spheres here. We are not talking about right-angled triangles. But hey, okay, fine, whatever. You're a fucking idiot, but we'll move on from there. When you're calculating how far you should be able to see on the Earth, you have to take into account several things. And one is, of course, how far away that is and how much of that object would be hidden behind the curvature of the Earth. The second thing is the height of those objects and the height of the person observing those objects. So when people go for these really long photos of things far away, they get on top of hills, looking at other hills or mountains that are far away. And because of that, you can see an awful lot further. And then we add refraction on top of that, especially over the surface of water, where you can have different temperatures of air that causes the light to refract and bend more around the surface of the Earth. Now, this can cause mirages as well, which is often why the images of things like this can look really weird and not original. But there is something really, really important to remember about this. If the Earth was flat and we were looking at something a long way away because we could see it, if, say, you're looking over the water and there is nothing in the way between those two areas, except for maybe the waves, then you should be able to see that object all the way down to the ground, pretty much. You know, you might get a little bit of waves in the way, but pretty much you're going to see all the way to the ground. But you don't. You see the tops of things. You don't see all of them. You just see the tops. This means that the lower half of these objects is hidden behind something. And it's not going to be the waves, not when you're talking of hundreds of feet. Unless you think there's some hundreds of feet high waves out there on nice still days. No, it's hidden behind the curvature of the Earth.
In 1887, Albert Michelson and Edward Morley conducted what's known as the Michelson-Morley experiment. This experiment was attempting to prove the speculated motion of the Earth around the Sun.
Okay, you really are a fucking idiot. I mean, for goodness sake, the Michelson-Morley experiment was not about proving the motion of the Earth around the Sun. They already knew the Earth moved around the Sun. The Michelson-Morley experiment was to prove the motion of the Earth through the then hypothesized ether, and thus prove the existence of the ether. The failure of the Michelson-Morley experiment just proved that the ether did not exist and led Einstein to develop the theory of relativity. You're so fucking wrong here. Ugh, why are you people so fucking stupid?
And when it failed, Albert Einstein was forced to form the theory of relativity to overcome this problem. In fact, anytime mainstream science is faced with undesirable results, they create a workaround, which isn't real science at all.
Really? Not real science? Oh, for fuck's sake. Dumbest fucking dick ever. You fucking idiot. Look, despite the fact that you're completely wrong about the Michelson-Morley experiment and the reasons for the development of Einstein's special and general theories of relativity, the fact is that science is always self-correcting. When we learn new things in science, we develop new hypotheses and theories and we test them, and those that stand up to the test of time become the theories that we build our science upon. Science is self-correcting. It's not about having this one idea and it's got to be there forever. No, it's about finding out the universe through trial and error, through experimentation and discovery. And yes, sometimes we will be wrong, and sometimes we will find out that this was a little bit wrong, and we have to build upon that and add to that and change things up a little bit because we were a little bit wrong, because new experimental evidence shows that something else is true. And that is the beauty of science. It is self-correcting. It is moving towards the right answers to everything, but it takes time. Being staunch and unchanging is what you people do. It's what the religious do. It is just mind-numbing, the projection that you guys have here. And I'm so fucking sick of it, you fucking ignoramuses.
The sun is claimed to be 93 million miles away, with a radius of over 400,000 miles, but can easily be proven to be much closer and smaller by tracing the crepuscular rays back to its origin in the sky. If the sun were indeed 93 million miles away, it would simply be impossible to have angled sun rays, as they should all consistently come in straight.
And it should be impossible to have train tracks that look like they converge in the distance when we know for a fact they're actually parallel. This is the whole thing when you're looking at the sun at crepuscular rays. They look like they fan outwards because of perspective. Perspective makes things that look off into the long distance appear to get closer together. So the rays coming through our atmosphere, when you're looking at them in that direction towards the sun, look like they diverge when actually they are parallel. And we can tell they are parallel because we have pictures of them from above from aircraft. So, you're wrong. You're just absolutely fucking wrong again. And honestly, why can't you people get decent educations?
According to the globular theory, a lunar eclipse occurs when the sun, earth, and moon are in a direct line. But it is on record that since about the 15th century, over 50 eclipses have occurred while both the sun and moon are visible above the horizon. F.H. Cook, The Terrestrial Plane.
Yes, this is something that actually happens. It's called selenalion, and it occurs when the sun and the moon appear to be above the horizon but are actually just below it. And the reason they appear to be above it is because of the refraction. Because they are so low down on the horizon, the atmosphere is thicker and it tends to bend the light more. So we see the sun or the moon as being above the horizon when really they've dropped below it. At this point, the moon itself is actually eclipsed from the sun's light, so you get a lunar eclipse, but you can still see the sun in the sky because of the refraction of the sun and the moon.
It's a common misconception that the shadow of the earth causes moon phases. Even the pastors and priests of the science religion readily admit this fact. The interesting thing about moon phases is that they are always the exact same 8 phases repeated. But if we were circling around the sun, these 8 phases would inevitably be reversed from the summer to winter seasons.
Leaving aside the fact that science is not a religion, science changes and adapts. But that aside, the whole reason for the phases of the moon is because of the angle of the light from the sun towards the moon. And the moon, as it orbits around the earth, does in fact actually rotate, but it rotates and keeps the same size facing towards the earth. So as the moon rotates around the earth and the earth rotates around the sun and the earth itself rotates, we see different parts of the moon being lit up. But because we always see the same side of the moon, what we're seeing is just the little bit that is facing us that is still being lit up instead of the whole thing that's being lit up. It's all got to do with where we are in relation to the moon and where the sun is in relation to the moon. And it's not got anything to do, which you were actually correct about, with the shadow of the earth. You only see the shadow of the earth on the moon during a lunar eclipse.
I completely understand that the idea of a flattened stationary earth seems ridiculous in many ways. But that's only because we are taught the false globe model from the very first time that we enter a school classroom. Not to mention the first time we are introduced to the concept of a flat earth, it's depicted as a highly laughable world where ships, boats, and water would run off of the edge. So I do get it, but it's all part of the deception. I've spent 30 years of my life believing that we were on a spinning globe. It wasn't until I unbiasedly and scientifically investigated the flat earth claims that I started to realize that there is more to this theory than I originally gave it credit for.
Well, you see, you're just stupid here. There is no credit to this. Various philosophers and scientists for thousands of years have looked into this, have gone and done the experiments over and over again, the repeatability of this, and this was even before we went into space. We have known for hundreds and hundreds of years that the Earth is round, from Aristophanes' measurements of the radius of the Earth to Copernicus to figuring out that the planets all went around the sun. We have unveiled the mysteries of the universe, and we continue to do so. Looking out at the Earth and saying, oh, it looks flat to me, so it must be flat, is not doing the science. You can't necessarily trust your senses. Your senses lie to you because your senses have been honed by evolution to just help you survive in your little tiny space of this very big world. So to understand more about the world we live in, about the universe we live in, we have to do the science, we have to do the experiments, we have to use our scientific equipment to understand the stuff that our senses won't sometimes let us see. And when you do these things, like science has done for hundreds and thousands of years, you find out that the Earth is round. You find out that we're not the center of the universe. And you find out that science is correct. The fact that you want to hold on to an idea that has been gone since the Greeks first figured out that the Earth was round is mind-boggling to me. It's just complete science denial. And people who deny science are scum to me. You are absolute fucking assholes. Encouraging people to not learn about the world we live in just boggles my mind. You're saying, oh, when you investigate this for yourself. Well, here's the thing. Go and properly investigate this. Go and do the same experiment that Aristophanes did to measure the radius of the Earth. Go and do a torsion balance experiment and measure gravity. Go and do these experiments for yourself. Not all of them require really expensive equipment. Not all of them require degrees in science to be able to do. If you go and do these things for yourself, you will prove to yourself that we live on an oblate spheroid that orbits a sun that is a long fucking way away. Oh, I am so glad that is over. Thank you everybody for putting up with this with me and for sticking along for the ride. Please, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe and ring the little bell because it's lovely to see you all here enjoying my videos. And just please, try not to choke on the selfie stick.